let me show you a tidbit of this. Biden spoke after his meeting with Xi Jinping. And I have to say, the press conference, I don't even know if it's down here. Yeah. They had a reception. There's a bunch of things for this. And this is the Apex CEO one. Yeah. And then the work lunch and all that kind of stuff. These are long. Let's see. Maybe I can. Yeah. I'll jump into this. And he's live right now. They're delivering remarks and doing the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework family photo. So all these people are getting together, which includes Xi Jinping. Let me show you the beginning of this, though.
As you know, I just concluded several hours of meetings with President Xi, and I believe that they were some of the most constructive and productive discussions we've had.
By the way, very low standard, because up to this point, the Chinese leadership has been complete assholes. Jesus is always found in the giblets, Mark? Okay, I beg your pardon. I never know where to look on a turkey to find the Jesus. Also, can I just point out that the sign language interpreter is fucking spectacular.
I've been meeting with President Xi since both of us were vice president over 10 years ago.
Yeah, except you were a real vice president, and he was the secondary leader of the Chinese Communist Party, and he was selected. You were elected, he was selected. There's a difference. I hate the fuck that they call him president. Drives me crazy.
Our meetings have always been candid and straightforward. We haven't always agreed, but they've been straightforward. And today, build on the groundwork we laid over the past several months of high-level diplomacy between our teams. We've made some important progress, I believe. First, I'm pleased to announce that after many years of being on hold, we are restarting cooperation between the United States and PRC on counter-narcotics. In 2019, you may remember, China took action to greatly reduce the amount of fentanyl shipped directly from China to the United States. But in the years since that time, the challenge has evolved from finished fentanyl to fentanyl chemical ingredients and pill presses, which are being shipped without control. And by the way, some of these pills are being inserted in other drugs like cocaine. A lot of people are dying. More people in the United States between the ages of 18 and 49 die from fentanyl than from guns, car accidents, or any other cause, period. So today, with this new understanding, we're taking action to significantly reduce the flow of precursor chemicals and pill presses from China to the Western Hemisphere. It's going to save lives.
All right, that's interesting, because I was expecting this talk about the precursors, but it's one of the problems that they've had with some of the people who are dying of overdoses is that people are getting pills for, what they think is like Adderall and shit like that, and it's actually fentanyl, but it's using the pill presses from China that are made over there that stamp it to make it look like another drug. And so they dye these drugs to make it look like something else, and it's got fentanyl in it. So you think you're getting one thing, like off-brand or black market access to other drugs like Oxycontin and oxycodone and shit like that. And it's really, it's not like in a powder form you'd buy in a baggie from a dude. It looks like the real pill. So they're like, oh, I've taken this pill before, and they take the equal amount and they fucking die. So the pill presses is I would argue, one of the biggest steps. You gotta have the Mexican government, though, claim the ones that are out there, or you've also got to change the standard for what the pills say on them and announce that to people so people know what to look for. So there's if there's a letter or a number on it, the number has changed to let people know that, if you're getting, Adderall or some other stimulant or something that you think from somebody and you're buying it on fucking Snapchat or TikTok, which is one of the big problems, that you can look at it and go, okay, that's not, they can look it up in the, online and go, that's the real one, this is fake.
And I appreciate President Xi's commitment on
yes, and it's fentanyl, right?
This issue. President Xi and I tasked our teams to maintain a policy and law enforcement coordination going forward to make sure it works. I also want to thank the bipartisan congressional delegation to China, led by Leader Schumer, in October for supporting this effort so strongly. Secondly, and this is critically important, we're reassuming military-to-military contacts, direct contacts. As a lot of you press know who follow this, that's been cut off, and it's been very worrisome. That's how accidents happen, misunderstandings. So we're back to direct, open, clear, direct communications.
Yeah, they stopped. The Chinese stopped talking to us after Pelosi went to Taiwan.
On a direct basis. vital miscalculations on either side can cause real trouble with a country like China or any other major country. And so I think we're made real progress there as well. And thirdly, we're going to get our experts together to discuss risk and safety issues associated with artificial intelligence. As many of you who travel with me around the world, almost everywhere I go, every major leader wants to talk about the impact of artificial intelligence.
Gee, it's almost as if I've been talking about this on my Friday show longer than anyone else, and everyone is catching up. How long do you think before they announce the AI czar? Just saying, floated that idea. It's going to happen.
These are tangible steps in the right direction to determine what's...
By the way, I would gladly do it. I would gladly be the administration's AI czar. It would mean and don't worry, I could still do my show. It would just be done by a bot. I could teach it to say fuck a bunch of times and roll its eyes at Republicans.
Useful and what's not useful, what's dangerous and what's acceptable. Moreover, there are evidence of cases that I've made all along. The United States will continue to compete vigorously with the PRC, but will manage that competition responsibly so it doesn't veer into conflict or accidental conflict. And where it's possible, where our interests coincide, we're going to work together like we did on fentanyl. That's what the world expects of us. The rest of the world expects, not just in people in China and the United States, but the rest of the world expects that of us. And that's what the United States is going to be doing. Today, President Xi and I also exchanged views on a range of regional and global issues, including Russia's refusal and brutal war to stop the war and brutal war of aggression against Ukraine and conflict in Gaza. And as I always do, I raised areas where the United States has concerns about the PRC's actions, including detained and exit-banned U.S. citizens, human rights, and coercive activities in the South China Sea.
Right. So there's a really weird thing about Americans with dual Chinese citizenship. Well, it's kind of like permanent residents, people living in China, long story, but are Americans, but have lived there for a long time. And the Chinese government refused to give them exit visas, wouldn't allow them to leave the country. And even just to go home. Like, it's really odd. It's one of those things where you would just expect them to expel people, but they won't allow it. It's one of the more curious things. And oftentimes it's about people who used to proselytize quite a bit about China on behalf of China for the rest of the world as like an American who likes the place, which makes me particularly nervous because of the time I spent there. But that's one of the key aspects of it. Now, real quick, he's discussing what they discussed, and that's fine. And most of that will come out in the paperwork. I want to go to this part. This is, if I may, him talking to the APEC summit. So this is the CEO summit. Notice the difference between his talking about, to Xi Jinping and then about what they talked about in this.
Good morning. Please have a seat. Welcome to San Francisco. This Marconi Center is about as big as my state. This is a city of synonymous with innovation and breaking barriers, where collaboration and coming together have always been key to unlocking our potential. It's a city that has been shaped by centuries of deep ties to the Asian Pacific region by contributions of people of Asian and Pacific Island heritage. So San Francisco is a natural place to gather to innovate and collaborate for the 2023 APEC Summit, the CEO Summit, and all the events that are taking place this week. And I want to thank everyone who's made this week possible, especially those serving in APEC's Executive Secretariat, APEC Business Advisory Council, the National Center for APEC, and so many others. Today, 21 APEC economies make up more than 60% of the global GDP. We're almost half the global trade. The Asian Pacific is projected to be the largest contributor to global growth over the next 30 years.
Now, Notice the difference in him kind of like the energy. Now, granted, he came out of a 4-hour meeting and into that other one. It was it's going to be tiring or whatever. And you're going to be a little like, okay, I'm over it. But, and this is earlier, I think, in the day, the next day. But this is when he's talking to, Philippines and Vietnam and all these other groups. And there's one, let's see if I can find it. There's one moment.
Of our economies and tap, not only in the Asian Pacific region, but the whole world. I mean that sincerely. People everywhere. The future of prosperity is shared and is inclusive, where workers are empowered and their rights are respected.
This very anti-China language. It's not too subtle.
Our economies are sustainable and resilient.
Also fairly anti-China.
And the bridges that connect our people open a golden gate of opportunity to create lives.
San Francisco, Golden Gate, tie in.
Of hope. Just lives of hope. Most people are just hope.
Mm-hmm.
It's been my approach here in the United States from the moment my administration took office. We're building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up. Trickle-down economy worked okay sometimes, but not a whole lot trickled down on my dad's kitchen table. But when the middle class does well, the poor have a chance and the wealthy still do very well. Because what happens, the poor have a ladder up, the middle class and the wealthy still do well. Folks, we're already seeing the results. The last quarter, the American economy grew 4.9%.
Ouch. Remember, wasn't it supposed to, we were supposed to collapse by now, weren't we? 4.9% growth. Whew. Did you see Maria Bartiromo reacting to that shit? She was apoplectic.
The highest growth rate in 2 years. More people in the United States.
And by the way, the other growth rate was directly after COVID, which it would have been artificially low the year before, therefore artificially high the year afterward. So we got close to that in 2021, but it was partly because of the timing of 2020, when everything had crashed.
Because of many of you sitting there, the CEOs. Let's give credit where it's due. More people in the United States are in the workforce today than any time in American history. Our unemployment has been under 4% for 21 straight months. Inflation has come down.
By the way, notice how the CEOs didn't clap about that one right away.
By 65%. More to do. We now have the lowest inflation rate of any advanced economy in the world. Meanwhile, median household wealth has grown by 37% in real terms since before the pandemic. I acknowledge there's a disconnect between the numbers and how people feel about their place in the world right now. We can deal with the second part as well. We still have work to do.
He brings up Vietnam at one point.
But our model for growing is delivering real results for all Americans. Significant black unemployment, Latino unemployment, et cetera. The strength of our economy is driving growth and spurring investment throughout our region. And again, because of many of you sitting in front of me made those judgments. And it's drawing investments to the United States, especially from Asian Pacific economies. Since the start of my administration, companies from across the Asian Pacific have invested over $200 billion in the United States. These are historic investments, creating literally tens of thousands of good-paying jobs. We're 14 million created just since we came to office. All across America in industries that are going to shape the future of this globe. Semiconductors, electric vehicles, batteries, critical materials, hydrogen hubs, and other critical emerging technologies.
Hydrogen hubs. One of the things that doesn't get mentioned much is in the Inflation Reduction Act and in the rescue package, there was seed money and then growth money for hydrogen as an alternate car fuel source in case we get past battery production. We're definitely invested in battery technology here in the United States and electric cars running on that. But hydrogen fuel cells, Japan is all in on hydrogen fuel cells. And eventually, Japanese cars, there's going to be a divergent moment where Japanese cars run on hydrogen. And whether it's in the next 5 years or 10 years, who can say? It's maybe 15 years, but that's the way they're going. That's the direction they're going. And since they are a preferred make and model across the United States, they have a huge, wide berth of usage here, and it is a resilient fuel source that's very good for areas out in the middle of nowhere where exchanging a tank or even solid state hydrogen or some other form is easier than trying to stop and charge a battery. It's going to matter. And so they're looking at that already. The Biden administration has already laid out stuff for that. Yeah.
I've long said it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. Never. No, I mean it. Think about it. It's never been a good bet. And we're proving it once more.
See if he sees
My message to all of you here today is, leaders of government and industry, you can count on the United States. We're delivering on our promises, and we're doubling down on our progress. And we'll soon be your strong and steady partner as we continue working together to realize the Asian-Pacific region that is free and open.
By the way, there's a slip in the soon be, because I think he's referring, it was a teleprompter thing, but it really does have to do with this kind of all these other countries versus China situation. That's been the conversation at all these things all day, is that everything China has been doing over the last 2 decades is now transferring to other countries. And so there's a little bit of a whisper campaign about that shit that was going on throughout this entire thing.
Prosperous and secure, resilient and connected. By the way, twice since I've been president, I've had the leaders of the Asian Pacific Islands come and meet with me in the United States. They're all part of it. I thought when I left the G20 and Vietnam desperately wanted to see me and raise the relationship, it brought me back when I stood in front of that monument to John McCain. All my days growing up, I never thought that would ever occur.
Mm-hmm.
Today.
Right. So I just wanted to show you that part because it's a little off script, but he basically says the G20 and Vietnam wanted to increase their economic back and forth between the United States, and he's standing at John McCain's memorial. I never thought that would happen. Here I am talking to Vietnam about this, and he's right. And he throws in that all my years kind of thing. There's a mix of you can just tell the history of that shit. Imagine if McCain was still alive and he was, he had become president or whatever, and a similar thing had happened. My goodness.